Long before China bared its fangs and started flexing its international muscles, one man was writing on China's 100-year marathon and its secret plan to replace the United States as the world's leading superpower. This was at a time when many in the Western world of academia and think tanks were still looking at China with rose-tinted glasses and seeing in Beijing a friend and not a threat. The theme of this year's conclave is the India moment, but there is a giant dragon hanging over that Indian moment, and that dragon lives in Beijing. To discuss the biggest threat to India's growth and to the global system at large, I am delighted to welcome to the India Today Conclave one of the world's leading experts on China, Mr. Michael Pillsbury. Mr. Pillsbury has been advisor to many US presidents. He's a consultant at the US Department of Defense. He's the director of Chinese strategy at the Hudson Institute, and he's known the world over for his prescient book, The 100-Year Marathon, China's Secret Strategy to Replace America as the Global Superpower. If you haven't read this, you absolutely must. Joining Mr. Pillsbury, for an Indian perspective, we have Manoj Kewalramani. Manoj is the chairperson of the Indo-Pacific Research Program and a China Studies Fellow at the Takshashila Institute, a public policy center. So welcome, and let's now talk about the biggest threat to the India moment. And can I get Mr. Pillsbury to look back at this book which came out in 2015? A lot of what America now takes as given, you've already written about way back. You talk about China replacing the United States as the world's #1 power by 2049. Are you still on track for that timeline? Is the timeline being advanced into the future? Has it been brought forward? Mr. Pillsbury, let's start from there.
Thank you. I think the Chinese are ahead of schedule. I underestimated how fast they would surpass America in various indicators. The Heritage Foundation actually next month is going to come out with a list of indicators where China has already surpassed America. Some of them are quite dramatic. When the Chinese launched a round-the-world hypersonic missile, we can't do that. We were quite certain China could not do that. When they went to the far side of the moon, we can't do that. We were surprised that China could do it. In the number of biotech areas, China has already surpassed us. So I underestimated two things. One was the progress of China. The other was I thought a coalition would form both inside America and around the world that would slow China down, that would say you're stealing too much, you're breaking the rules, you're doing things you never said before you would do. So there'd be a coalition. And the key member of the coalition would be India. That has not happened. No real coalition is formed against China's conduct anywhere in the world. And in particular, something called the Quad was formed. Initially, the media thought this was to talk about China. Australia, Japan, India, the United States. The heads of state would meet, the foreign ministers would meet. But actually what happened, in the joint statement that would come out of the Quad meetings, China could not be mentioned. One country that belongs to the Quad prevented the others from saying anything negative about China in their joint statements. So China's grown much faster than I thought, and the response from around the world has been much weaker than I thought. So if anything, the 100-year marathon is ahead of schedule, to answer your question.
So by when, in your estimate, does China overtake the United States and emerge as the world's global superpower #1? Is that inevitable? Can America still win?
You know, when you think about cricket and soccer and worldwide sports, there's a number of things that happen that billions of people watch. You know the score. It's up on the scoreboard. You can see the umpire make a good call or make a bad call. You know who the teams are. In the US-China or the India-China competition, there's none of that. There's no announcement. The score is not made public. And there's no umpire. That's the most important thing of all. There's no umpire. So the role of India today and the worldwide media in general is very important. They've got to describe what is the game that's going on, that's secret, that's behind the scenes. Which indicators should we watch? I didn't mention another surprise to me was the nuclear weapons. The Chinese have told the world since their first nuclear test in 1964, we don't believe in nuclear weapons. Yes, we have a couple hundred, maybe, but that's only for defense. Now, just in the last 2 years, it's been announced by our strategic forces, China is having a breakout, what's called strategic breakout. They're building so many new ICBM silos that just 2 weeks ago, our key general said, China now has more ICBM nuclear weapons silos than America. This is a big surprise. But is there a worldwide coverage of the team players in cricket? Of suddenly this has happened? No. You'll find it very difficult to find in any newspaper in the world or any TV show in the world other than yours that this is happening. Now, if the Chinese go for 1,500 nuclear warheads, which is the American military estimate, they're going for either parity or to surpass both America and Russia. Now, Indian nuclear forces it's secret, but let's say it's 100 or 200. If China goes for 1,500, that's a 7-to-1 superiority against the Indian moment that we're talking about so much today. But again, it's not covered as a cricket match or as a worldwide World Cup.